Chair entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Got a motion, it's been properly second. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Before you carry that motion, I think it was to recess executive session because we were going back into it, was it not?
On that
Yeah,
item, on
yeah.
that item.
Yeah,
On that item, okay.
yeah. So we're just recessing executive session because we're still going to take that item up.
Yeah.
And that's okay?
Yeah.
All right. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. All right. We were at,
Second public hearing.
okay,
item
open and closing the
12B.
public hearing, item 12B, authorizing the expansion of the boundaries of the I-77 Corridor Regional Industrial Park, jointly developed with Fairfield County to include certain additional real property located in Richland County, the execution and delivery of a First Amendment of that certain credit agreement between Richland County and CD/Park 7, Columbia, South Carolina, High-Rise Owner LLC to include such additional property as part of the project site described therein and others related matters.
No one signed up to speak.
That public hearing is open. Nope, that public hearing is open. No one signed up to speak. That public hearing is now closed. Item 12C, authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Richland County and Project Aura, whereby Richland County will enter into a fee in lieu of tax agreement with Project Aura and providing for payment by Project Aura of certain fee in lieu of ad valorem taxes, providing for allocation of fees in lieu of taxes payable and under the agreement for the establishment of a multi-county industrial/business park and other matters related thereto.
No one signed up to speak.
Public hearing is open. No one signed up to speak. That public hearing is now closed. Item 12D, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of an infrastructure credit agreement by and between Richland County, South Carolina, and Dominion Carolinas Gas Transmission LLC with respect to certain economic development property in the county, whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes, and such company will receive certain infrastructure credits in respect of investment in related infrastructure and other matters related thereto. That public hearing is open. No one signed up to speak. That public hearing is now closed. Next, we have approval of the consent items. We have items 13 through 17. Chair, entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion for approval. It's been properly second. Discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Washington.
I'm sorry, it's third reading. Thanks. I'm good.
Okay, I got a motion for approval of consent items. It's been properly second. All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Dixon, Malinowski, Rose, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Dickerson, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
And all opposed, same like sign. That motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
is it proper at this time to do a motion to reconsider all of those items since we're at the end of the year?
Item 16, all of them were third reading?
13.
All right, all were third reading items. Yeah, that's. Chair, entertain a motion for reconsideration. Huh?
There weren't 30.
I'm sorry, 13 through 17. All of them were,
17,
all were
third
third reading items.
They're
Yes.
all third reading.
Chair, I got a motion for reconsideration.
Second.
It's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
That motion fails. Thank you. Third reading items. Item 18, authorizing the expansion of boundaries of the I-77 Corridor Regional Industrial Park jointly developed with Fairfield County to include certain additional real property located in Richland County, the execution and delivery of a First Amendment to that certain credit agreement between Richland County and CD/Park 7, Columbia, South Carolina, High-Rise Owner LLC to include such additional property as part of the project site described therein and other related matters. Chair, entertain a motion. I got a motion for approval.
Second.
It's been properly second. Discussion. This is the third reading item. All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Dixon, Malinowski, Rose, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Dickerson, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
All opposed, like sign. That motion carries. Next, we have item 19 for third reading. An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of an infrastructure credit agreement by and between Richland County, South Carolina, and Dominion Carolina Gas Transmission LLC with respect to certain economic development property in the such company will receive certain infrastructure credits in respect of, in the county, whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes, and such company will receive certain infrastructure credits in respect of investments in related infrastructure and other matters related thereto. Chair, entertain a motion. Got a motion for approval. It's been properly second. Discussion. Mr. Washington and Mr. Malinowski.
Who's speaking on that? Economic development.
Can you come forward, please?
How you doing? Jeff? On the fee, have we got the fee structure yet for this project? Go ahead and give your name.
I'm sorry,
Jeff
the name
Rubel,
and title,
Economic Development
please.
Director. This is done off a multi-county industrial park fee, so there's not a fee in lieu of taxes. It's just a straight special source revenue credit for a company that's purchasing an existing facility.
Gotcha. Now, a question came up, and I just wanted to put it on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Malinowski.
Hold on. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is third reading, and this is the first time that I also believe my colleagues, are seeing the actual name of the company here, Dominion Carolina Gas Transmission LLC. What was it carried for as in the previous two readings?
It was referred to as Project VA.
Okay, I think in the future, that needs to be put in here. And the same, when you go back to the public hearing, 12D, I think it was, how does the public know that's what this is referring to if they don't have other notes and an agenda to go to? So maybe somebody would speak to it if they knew it was formerly Project VA. So I just recommend in the future that complete information be given to the public. Thank you.
Doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. Motion on the table. Any more discussion? Motion on the table is for approval. All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Dixon, Malinowski, Rose, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Dickerson, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
Any opposed, like sign. That motion carries. Next, we have item 20. We have 15-35MA Cynthia Weatherford, RSHD to LI, 2610 Harlem Street. Chair, entertain a motion. Mr.
I
Washington.
make a motion for approval for discussion.
I got a motion for approval. This has been properly second. Discussion. Mr. Washington. Mr. Price, if you can state your name and position for the record, please.
Gionard Price, zoning administrator.
When you discussed with the applicant about the layout of the property, did they get back to you regarding how they're going to fix the building on that property?
No, sir.
Where'd you get the sketch from?
This was emailed to me by Mr. Weatherford. I spoke to him, and he sent me this drawing in as to where he was proposing to place the new building.
Did he ever follow up with you regarding the buffering?
No, sir.
Mr. Chair, I want to make a motion to defer this item.
Okay, I got a motion. I got a motion for deferral. It's been properly second. Deferral's non-debatable. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I move reconsideration item 18 and 19.
Second.
Got a motion for reconsideration. It's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
That motion fails.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Dickerson.
On the item that we took up, item 20, Mr. Washington, do you want to state when you want this item to be taken up?
We got to a point whether or not we're going to have a meeting this week.
I think we're going to make that decision at the end of this meeting, Mr. Washington.
Not at this time.
Or you just say next meeting, so that way you get it, whenever it's gonna occur.
That's fine, next meeting's fine. Hopefully I can get the information.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dickerson. Next, we have second reading items. Item 21, authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Richland County and Project Aura, whereby Richland County will enter into a fee in lieu of tax agreement with Project Aura and providing for payment by Project Aura of certain fee in lieu of ad valorem taxes, providing for the allocation of fee in lieu of taxes payable under the agreement for the establishment of a multi-county industrial/business park and other matters relating thereto. Chair, entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Got a motion for approval?
Second.
So properly second, discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Dixon, Malinowski, Rose, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Dickerson, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
Any opposed, like sign. That motion carries. Item 22, an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2015-2016 Court Appointment Special Advocates Training Grant Annual Budget to add 2 new CASA caseworker positions.
Move for
Chair,
approval.
got a motion for approval. It's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Dixon, Malinowski, Rose, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Dickerson, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
Any opposed, like sign. That motion carries. Item 23, an ordinance amending the Richland County Code of Ordinance, Chapter 17, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, General Traffic and Parking Regulations, Section 17-10, Parking in residential and commercial zones of the county so as to prohibit the parking of motor vehicles in the front yard in certain residential zoning districts. Chair, entertain a motion. Mr. Jeter.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to defer this item.
Second.
Got a motion for deferral. It's been properly second. Deferral is non-debatable. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 24, an ordinance amending the Richland County Code of Ordinance, Chapter 18, Offenses, Section 18-4, Weeds and rank vegetation so as to amend the time for notification. Chair, entertain a motion. Got a motion for approval. It's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor of that motion, Ms.
Mr.
Dickerson.
Chair.
Ms. Dickerson, you have the floor.
Ms. Dixon, this was taken up, is this for the 20, I'm trying to get this corrected. So we're looking at 2 feet or above 2 feet?
No, this is for the time of notification. In our current ordinance, I think we have 20 days and we moved that, 10 days, and we moved that to 30 days notification to give it due time for a proper process from the sheriff department, our planning department, as well as getting it to magistrate.
Okay, I just want some clarification on that. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay. Any more discussion? The motion on the table is for approval. All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Dixon, Malinowski, Rose, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Dickerson, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
Any opposed, like sign. That motion carries. Next, we have the report of the Development and Service Committee. Ms. Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 25, removal of lien off of property, and that is in your agenda packet, page 144 to 156. The committee is recommending approval.
Okay, you heard the committee's recommendation. Discussion.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The last meeting, This was deferred until this meeting for additional information that was requested by Ms. Dixon. I didn't see the information in here.
Can I answer that, Mr. Chair? I would love to share that information with you, but I got the answer. You want to share it?
Well, it's gonna be, that's good for you. There's 10 more of us. I'd like to know what the answer is.
Brent, Mr. Madden, if you can come forward and state your name and position, please.
Brandon Madden, Research Manager. I was able to do some research and talk to Ms. Dixon about her question. I was unable to find an exact federal policy that would prohibit Atlas Road Community Organization from applying for a federal grant. But I think the issue where they may run into some problems is if they're using the value of the property as a condition of the award of the grant. So if they apply for a grant and they want to use the value of the property as a grant match, as an in-kind grant match, because it has a tax lien on it, they may not be able to use it. So that's the answer. It's not clear cut because there's no specific policy that speaks to it.
Well, if there's no specific policy that speaks to it, then how do we know they would be denied a grant application?
A lot of it will be dependent on the actual organization that they're applying with. Some organizations have their own criteria that may include the federal policies, but they have their own set of policies that they adhere to in addition to those. So in that type of situation, it would depend on that actual granting organization, whether or not they would prevent or not give the Atlas Road Community Organization funding because they have a tax lien on their property. But with most federal grant applications, they will ask the applicant whether or not they have a federal tax debt or a federal lien, but it just depends on that actual organization, whether or not that would preclude them from actually getting a grant.
Okay, so we really don't have a clear-cut answer. We don't know then,
Yeah.
one way or the other.
There's no policy that actually says
Have
that.
they indicated they plan on applying for some type of a grant?
The communication that I've had with them, that their thought is not necessarily to apply now. Right now, they want the property for future projects involving their organization, the Atlas Road community, such as a park or open space.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. Mr. Livingston.
In reviewing Mr. Davis' letter, reference to the organization, what they're planning to do and all, you know, I strongly actually support doing stuff like this if it's provided the public good, as the letter states. My only concern is I wish we can do some kind of language whereby when we do this in the future, you know, that if they sell the property, the county gets its money. I don't think it's in the best interest of the county if you're going to sell the property and then the county not receive the money as it relates to the lien. So we may need to figure out a way to do that, but I think if it's going to serve a public good, it makes sense to me to let the organization have the property they can use as a leverage to get grants. That's fine too. And in this sense, I think it is serving a public good. But let's at least see if we can figure out a way, sometime down the road, whether or not we can make sure the lien is paid if the property is sold. Because if we don't do that, then someone else can come and have an idea to sell property and just simply ask us to remove the lien and go sell the property. But if it's public good, that's a different story to me.
All right. All right, thank you, Mr. Livingston. Mr. Smith, do you have a?
No, I don't, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Washington.
The property that they own now and they got from the county, is contiguous to this piece of property?
It is. It's directly beside it. It borders it.
And we removed the lien from that property as well?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Washington. Ms. Dickerson.
Mr. Smith, this is to Mr. Smith. I noticed in the letter, I support this wholeheartedly, but I have this question about a quit claims deed on this property. Can you explain that quit claim deed on this for me? Because I've had some dealings with this, and I've had several discussions.
What page you're on, Ms.?
On 145 in the letter itself from the organization, from Mr. Davis. It says, in this property, to secure property through a quit claims deed. Who would that be on the deed? It's in the second paragraph.
Yeah, apparently, what they plan to do is whoever owns this property, they intend to give them a deed to the property, which is not a warranty deed, but a quitclaim deed. And that would include the lien, apparently, that the county has on this property apparently, we did some work on the property, as I understand it, and perhaps tore down a building. Is that correct? That's correct. And so, in securing that deed, they would also have to deal with the lien that comes with that.
Okay.
Clarification.
All right, clarification, Mr. Washington.
You said the county took down a building?
As I understand it, yes,
So that's how the lien got on it in the first place, because the county took a building down.
That's
Correct.
That's
It was an unsafe structure, so unsafe housing.
Okay,
Removed the
that's,
Thank you.
And just for clarification on that, what the lien typically covers the cost of the demolition?
Yes, that's correct.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may clarify Ms. Dickerson's question, the Atlas Road community received this as a donation from two siblings. The parents passed away. They were given the land. The siblings didn't want the land, and so a structure was removed, and so they wanted to give it back to the community. Atlas Road community wanted the land to, of course, do some type of mini park or something open to the public, and so they went through the quick claim deed process, and that's how they acquired the property. But of course, doing a quick claim deed means that they took the debt with them. And so because the county put the debt on, they started going through the process of asking the county to remove the lien. And so that's how we got
That
here.
answered my question a little bit more clear than you, Mr.
I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You done? Ms. Dickerson?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Dickerson. Any more discussion? Mr. Washington?
Motion for approval.
I
Second.
got a motion for, the chair, the committee has recommended approval. Any more discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Dixon, Rose, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Dickerson, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
Any opposed, like sign?
Opposed, Malinowski.
That motion carries.
Motion for reconsider.
Got a motion for reconsideration. It's been properly second. Discussion. I'm sorry? Yeah, it's one reading. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes.
All in favor of reconsideration signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
That motion fails. Next, Ms. Dixon.
That concludes the report of the Development and Service Committee.
Thank you,
Mr.
Ms.
Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Next, we have the report of the Administration and Finance Committee. Mr. Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one item that was carried over regarding consulting and representation services for disaster recovery. If you will recall that under our emergency procedures, we did an emergency procurement for disaster services. FEMA requires, however, that as soon as possible that we put out a formal RFP. That process was not completed at the time of the Administration and Finance Committee, so it was sent forward without recommendation. And Ms. Patrick, I guess you're going to get us up to
Yes, sir.
speed.
Cheryl Patrick, Procurement Director. Let me just refresh your memory on this. The proposal was originally published on October the 29th. An amendment was issued November the 6th. Proposals were due on November the 16th. We received 13 proposals. November 17th, they were distributed to the Evaluation Committee. December the 3rd, the evaluators, met with me, and we had our meeting, and I believe you have the sheet of the scorings in your packet, or it was sent to you, actually, via email, sorry. So based on the scoring that you've seen, I'm just going to read what I normally do, which is determination of findings for competitive seal proposal award, consulting and representation services, disaster recovery, RFP RC 651P-2016. Findings, taking into consideration the evaluation factors set forth in the request for proposal, the evaluation panel has determined by independent score that the proposal submitted by Tetra Tech to be the most advantageous to Richland County. No other criteria except those listed in the request for proposal were used in their evaluation. Procurement's determination, based upon the above findings, it is determined that the competitive seal proposal award be made to Tetra Tech and their team of DISA, Chow, Thomas & Hutton, ICF International, and 4D Engineering as the responsive and responsible offer whose proposal is the most advantageous to Richland County. At this time, we would ask for your approval to move forward with that award.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since the committee did not make a recommendation, I'll make a personal motion that we approve the recommendation findings of the selection panel.
Got a motion for approval. It's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Dixon, Malinowski, Rose, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Dickerson, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
Any opposed, like sign? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pierce.
We need to reconsider that. Okay, move to reconsider that item.
You got a motion for reconsideration. It's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
That motion fails.
Oh, nay. I'm
Chairman,
sorry.
that
I want
concludes-
to vote in the affirmative. I mean in the negative.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the report of the Administration and Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. Next, we have the report of the Economic Development Committee. Mr. Livingston.
Mr. Chair, item 27A, Palmetto Health Jetta bond issuance. There's a resolution in your packet in support of the issuance by the South Carolina Jobs Economic Development Authority of its not to exceed $240 million as relates to hospital revenue bonds to be issued in one of more series. Keep in mind, Palmetto Health was required to do the public hearing tonight prior to this, and that's why it was put off from the last time, you may recall. The bonds are being issued in part to support Palmetto Health purchase of Toomey's Health Care in Sumter. The committee's recommendation was for approval.
You heard the committee's recommendation. Discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Dixon, Malinowski, Rose, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Dickerson, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
Any opposed, like sign? That motion carries. Mr. Livingston.
You need a motion to
Mr. Chair,
reconsider?
can I entertain a motion to reconsider that?
Got a motion for reconsideration. It's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay. Nay.
That
Nay.
motion fails. Mr. Livingston.
Mr. Chair, the item 27B, we'll take that up in the executive session. We'll take action on that's an executive session item as well as project RS. Was that executive session too? I think yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So that completes the report at this point, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Next, we have the report of the Rules and Appointments Committee. Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will put it all together. Item 28A, B, C, D, E, and F. The committee recommends to advertise or re-advertise all those openings, whatever the case may be.
Okay, you heard the committee's recommendation. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Mr.
Thank you,
Malinowski.
Mr. Chair, that completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. Next, we have the report of the Dirt Road Ad Hoc Committee. Ms. Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 29, Justice Street Dirt Road Paving, Shelter Market, SLBE contract, construction contract, and it's on page 200 to 209. The dirt road is seeking approval. This is a shelter contract solely for SLB contract, and low bidder, Armstrong Contractor, is the certified SLBE with Richland County. This contract has 100% SLBE participation, and the recommendation is to award this contract to Armstrong Contractors in the amount of $151,363.85, which include a 10% contingency.
All right, you heard the committee's recommendation. Discussion. Mr. Washington.
Transportation Director.
Go ahead, Mr. Perry.
$151,000 and $336.
They're a local firm?
Yes, sir. They're out of Blythewood.
Discussion.
had to think about it.
Where's that?
Any more discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
In favor, Dixon, Malinowski, Rose, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Dickerson, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
Any opposed, like sign. That motion carries.
Chair, ask for
ma'am.
reconsideration.
I got a motion for reconsideration. It's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion fails.
That concludes the Dirt Road handout meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Next, we have the report of the Hospitality Tax Ad Hoc Committee. Mr. Washington.
Mr. Chair,
You skipped transportation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Next, we have the report of Transportation Ad Hoc Committee. Mr. Livingston.
Chair, regarding item 30, reference sidewalk package, beginning on page 210 in your package, in your agenda package, you'll find the outcome of the bids received to construct sidewalks on Wildwood Avenue, as well as Wendover Street located in District 3 and 4. This is a sheltered market contract sold for SLBE contractors, and the low bidder was Armstrong Contractors, a certified SLBE with Richland County. The contract has 100% SLBE participation, and the recommendation is to award the contract to Armstrong Contractors for $103,037.80, which includes a 10% contingency.
Okay, you
Recommendation for approval.
heard the committee's recommendation. Discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
Dixon, Malinowski, Rose, Jackson, Pierce, Rush, Livingston, Dickerson, Washington, Manning, Jeter.
Any opposed, like sign. That motion carries.
Chair, move for reconsideration.
Got a motion for reconsideration. It's been properly second. Discussion. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Nay. That motion fails. Thank you, Mr. Livingston.
That completes the report of the Transportation Ad Hoc Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Now, we have a report of the Hospitality Tax Ad Hoc Committee. Mr. Washington.
Mr. Chair. From the Hospitality Tax Committee, two items coming out, and we had that meeting, thank you, September sometime. The Destination Park Funding Plan. The funding plan will be brought forward at our next council meeting after first reading approval of the water park bond ordinance below. The ordinance, a second supplemental ordinance providing to issuing and a sale of Richland County, South Carolina hospitality tax revenue bond taxable series 2016 or such other appropriate series designated in the principal amount of not to exceed $20 million. Delegating authority to the county administrator to determine certain matters with respect to the bonds, prescribing to the form and details of such bonds and other matters related thereto. These bonds are for water park project. The committee recommended the first reading and approval of the bond ordinance. And again, the funding plan is going to come along at our next council meeting.
You heard the committee's recommendation. Discussion. Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, we're going into an executive session for something to do with the water park. Now, is that part of this particular bond that we're asking first reading approval for now?
Yes, sir.
These are,
So doesn't it seem like we should maybe
you want to take it up after?
hear what,
We
yeah.
can do that.
Defer this till after executive session?
We can do that.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Malinowski.
But this is
that-
the ordinance. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the previous item, the item you were referring to, which was referred to executive session, was the contractual matter. This item is the funding side of it, which is the issuance of the bonds, but you are correct, they are very much connected together, and one wouldn't make sense to go forward without the other. So I would recommend holding off on this one until after executive session as well.
All right. Mr. Washington? Okay, so we can just hold this off.
You're going to defer it until the executive session?
Yeah. Yeah.
After the executive session.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the motion? Okay.
Referring to after executive session.
You got a motion, it's been properly seconded, deferral is non-debatable. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries.
Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Next, we have citizens' input, must pertain to items not on the agenda. We have 8 citizens signed up to speak. First, we have Helen Taylor Bradley, and then we have Sabrina Todd and Rachel Larrett. Larrett. Which one? Larrett, yes. Got it right the first time.
Chairman and council members, I'm Helen Taylor Bradley. I reside at 1916 Martin Luther King Boulevard, Hopkins. I'd like to read into the record. I'm representing the Hopkins and Lower Richland Citizens United, and this letter is addressed to Mr. Tony McDonald, County Administrator, 2020 Hampton Street, Columbia. Dear Mr. McDonald, pursuant to the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act, I am requesting the following information. The number of residents in Lower Richland who signed up for the Lower Richland Sewer Project by the extended deadline of December 1st, 2015. The number of residents in Lower Richland who signed up for the Lower Richland Sewer Service by December the 1st, 2015, who were not sent Lower Richland Sewer Project surveys by Richland County. The number of times Richland County has extended the Lower Richland Sewer Project sign-up deadline since July 2014. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. And I would also like to touch bases on a couple things that citizens, after getting the call, requested the application. On the sanitary sewer service agreement for Lower Richland Sewer System, from numbers 1 all the way through 12, there's something in each one of them that says the customer is responsible for paying whatever, whether it's damages that incurred during the installation or whether it's the one that most stood out and I got more questions about was when the payments for the sewage is not made and the service is terminated at that time, that you would go to the debt set-off. Well, most people work for their income tax time because this is what they use to get caught back up. And you're going after that, and they have a problem with it. And not only that, if they don't have the money, if they don't have the money that you can get it from there, that you will cut the services off until they repay. And if they can't pay, then the services.
Thank you, Ms. Ms. Brad.
Anyway, I would just like to ask that you all look at that application agreement.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Todd?
I'm Sabrina Todd. I live at 1312 Glenhaven Drive. My house was deemed substantially damaged, and I received a letter from the county, from the floodplain manager, saying that I needed to either elevate my house or tear it down. So I've been asking for several weeks for a copy of the floodplain management ordinance cited in that letter, so I could see for myself, what are the rules, how does it work? It took me several requests to receive 26106, which is what Ms. Hegler was kind enough to send to me. I've asked if that's all there is or if I need to be looking at some other ordinances, and I haven't gotten an answer to that yet. But I'm just looking at 26106, and I'd just like to draw your attention to paragraph B. And that is the applicability and establishment of the overlay district. This is the floodplain overlay district for the county. And it states that it applies to properties that are designated on the FEMA flood insurance study for September 29th, 2010, and the accompanying flood insurance rate maps for September 29, 2010, that are in special flood hazard area. There is no 2010 map that applies for our neighborhood. It's a 2002 map. So I'd just like for you to think about how your rules and your letters work, and does this even apply to us? Do we have to comply with your rule? And I'd really like to see some progress on this issue. Thank you.
Do we have anybody who on staff could speak to that issue?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know that there's anyone here tonight, but we can have someone follow up directly
Who
with.
would be the person? Do you know?
Likely Andrea Bowling, our floodplain coordinator. In fact, I'm told that there's a meeting in the morning to talk about that.
Okay.
So-
Are you aware of that meeting?
Yes.
Staff? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Can you make sure you get with Ms. Todd on that issue? All right. Thank you. Ms. Larrett.
Hello, Rachel Larrett, 125 Whispering Pines Circle. I'm actually here to speak about Kathy Siokos, who's seated over there. She lives at 1308 Glen Haven. Kathy hasn't been able to speak on her own behalf because of how emotionally, financially, and physically draining this experience is, which I completely understand. Kathy's home is what you'll see as the main photo and backdrop of pretty much all the local and national news. Anytime you open up the paper or see it on the TV, that's Kathy's home at the corner of Whispering Pines and Glen Haven with only a couple of feet of her roof visible. Not only did she lose her home, she also lost everything she owns as well as her pets. Kathy's home so far will require elevation at approximate costs of $30,000 plus quotes have come in around $90,000 in repairs to return it to a livable home. She's been staying with friends for 65 days while searching for affordable housing. Currently, she's $90,000 short of what she would need to rebuild. Kathy, unfortunately, is not alone. This is pretty much what our entire neighborhood looks like. As Sabrina brought up, we're still trying to figure out, do these rules apply to us or do they not? What process should we be following? What should we do? And getting these answers has not been easy. As we're 65 days out, it's a struggle, and we're coming to you for help to get these answers because nobody has them. And I understand that a lot of the people that are working on this project, they haven't had to do this before. Whether or not they're a floodplain manager or county council members, we're all in this together and we're going through it for the first time, but we need your help because we're struggling. I know I'm filing more and more appeals going, I need more money. The rent's run out. You can't find anywhere to live. It's not just myself. It's not just the 60-plus homes in our neighborhood. It's people who've sought us out from across the county as well as Lexington County that we've been providing assistance for 65 days and will continue to do as long as they need us. I just wanted to remind you that we're still all here.
Yep.
So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Larrett. Atwood? Is there Atwood? Your first name, ma'am? Danya, Ms. Danya Atwood. You can come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you have up to 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Danya Atwood. I live in the Lower Richland area. My address is 116 Walker Street, Eastover. I'm here on behalf of 24 workers who were hired during the flooding to assist with the El Rock project. Now, there was some controversy as to whether a contract was made between the county council and General Turner, which is his company was AT Consulting. Now, whatever transpired between the two, the county council and that company, myself and the other 23 workers, we had nothing to do with that. We were asked, there was actually an ad that was sent out requesting for workers. We had people that came and assist with the flooding and the program. We were told that the county was funding this program, which they provided phones, computers, and someone who did our timesheets and everything. And now we're being told that we will not be getting paid for our services. Now, like any one of you who work on a job, your time is valuable, and when you do a job, you would like to get paid. Now, I don't know where the ball was dropped between getting the program started and when they ended it, but our service was given. And I feel that it's only fair that we get paid. Now, even if it was something done that wasn't correct, if a promise was made with the administrator It had to be, because otherwise we would not have been able to use the county's computers, your phone, and some of your workers to set everything up for us. And for you to back out now and say that we're not entitled to the money is not fair. We elect you to do a job, and we look forward, we expect you to be men and women of your words, that you're going to do the best job for the Lower Richland area. We still have people down there that's still in need of the assistance. My house was damaged. I'm still out of my house.
Yes.
I have no money to fix my house.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Atwood. Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Patrina Green. Ms. Green, if you can come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you have up to 2 minutes to speak. Yeah.
Mr. Harlan?
I'm sorry. Give me 1 second, Mr. Rose.
As relates to the issue on Glenhaven Drive, after the meeting tomorrow, will you, as we said, be sure to get with them? And then also, if something needs to come to council, some processes, would you please have that put on the agenda for our next meeting? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Green.
Patrina Green, 3853 Lockmore Drive, Columbia, 29209. I am also one of the 24 employees that thought that we were going to get paid from the Lower Richland Operations Center. I'm helping with the flood assistance, and I too want answers on to why we haven't gotten paid yet. It's just piggybacking off of Ms. Atwood. We did work diligently. Some of us worked every day, 4 to 7 hours a day, assisting with the program. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Green. All right, next we have Paul Truesdale. Mr. Truesdale, if you'll step forward and state your name and address for the record, and you have up to 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Councilman. My name is Paul Truesdale. I live at 1316 Glenhaven Drive. Let me correct that. I lived at that address. I met you, Mr. Pierce, sometime in October. December 1st came and went. That's the third mortgage payment I've paid. I'm not able to live in my house. About $70,000 worth of damages. My house is 90 feet south of Ms. Siokas' house that we all know from the Glenhaven pictures we've seen on the news. After listening to this meeting this evening and seeing all that you have to do, I am imploring this council to get together and figure out a plan to get us in hazard mitigation. There is no physical way that myself, single father of 2, or anybody else that lives in my neighborhood is going to be able to economically recover from this. In one night, I lost $75,000 in equity in a home, looking at 70 in repair. Either way you look at it, I'm upside down 6 figures. That's going to take me 2 decades to recover, and I'm not the only one. There are many people in my same boat. Fortunately, we have a place to live, and that's a blessing for us. But I am begging you, we have to move on this. The federal dollars are there, and when they are released, we are going to need your tenacity to get them for your residents, because it is going to be a free-for-all, and who's got the best team on their side is going to win this fight. And y'all can do this. There is tenure on this bench, and I'm looking at it. We need you. The residents of Richland County need you. If people like me start walking away from their homes, and my home is owned by the bank here in town because I had a lot of equity in it when I refinanced in 2005, it is going to be crippling to our economy to see so many people, middle class, claim bankruptcy because they have no other options. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Truesdale. Next, we have Teresa. Can you help me out? Schlosser. Yeah, if you can state your name and address for the record, and you have up to 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. I'm Teresa Schlosser. I live at 104 Whispering Pines.
Would you pull the microphone closer to you? There, thank you.
I live at 104 Whispering Pines. I'm in the same neighborhood as Glenhaven and Timberline. I was much more fortunate than many others in my neighborhood. I only had about $30,000 of damage. But I just want to also ask on behalf of those neighbors who have lost their homes and other neighbors as well, that our neighborhood not be forgotten. Like both of them just said, we have people maintaining 2 households right now with what money I couldn't tell you. And then people like myself who I did not lose my home, but I am looking at plummeting home value while all of these houses sit empty and they're unable to make any move to repair or sell it. So please don't forget us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Carol Goodson. Ms. Goodson, if you'll state your, I'm sorry, Goodson Edie.
That's okay.
If you could state your name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes to speak.
Okay, I am Carol Goodson Edie. I live at 1204 Clarkson Road in Hopkins, 29061. My first question I have is about the sewer. At first, I was against it. So when Dan Perino was working at Hopkins Park, well, not working, he came down to Hopkins Park for us to sign up for it. And I signed up for the sewer. Now I want to know, where is it going? We have not heard anything about it. I am for it, and I want to know, when is this project going to start going forward? Is that, because I want to know how long it's going to take for me to get the sewer system down here in Hopkins. And also, I also want to talk about flood damages that we've had in the Lower Richland area. I have a lot of people that have been calling me about what can they do. FEMA denied them. The insurance company denied them, so they're stuck in the middle. What kind of programs do you have in the Lower Richland community for people who can't go left and they can't go right, but they're stuck in the middle? That's all I have to ask.
All right. Did you want to talk, especially that first issue there? Okay, that concludes our citizens' input. Next, we have executive session.
Mr. Chair, program executive session, we voted on a second reading item, Project OR, and there's some information council need as a result of executive session, so I'd like to move that we add Project OR to executive session,
Okay.
to the executive session items.
Okay, Mr. Smith, could you state all the items for executive session, please?
With the addition of Project OR, we also have the water park contracts, Sheriff's Department purchase of property, that's a contractual matter. Transportation, sales, tax expenditure, that's receipt of legal advice. Project RS, that's an economic development matter. And, of course, the council recessed the issue on the personnel matter. Those are all the matters for executive session.
Okay. All right. The chair entertained a motion. You had a motion for approval to go into executive session. It's been properly second. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We're in executive session.